So hey guys, my name is Philip Haines, and I'm the CEO of Greenhaus. I'll be talking about our experience of bringing our kind of e-commerce experience into a physical brick and mortar store. So first, just a little bit of background about Greenhaus and the team. So my background is in real estate and retail, and my co-founder's background is as a software engineer. And we started Greenhaus back in January of 2019. And our core business model is e-commerce retail for primarily sustainable direct-to-consumer brands. In addition to that, we run physical co-retail stores where we host multiple direct-to-consumer brands in our store for them to get introduced to new customers and make sales. And the primary business model is that it's our store. It says Greenhaus on the front. It's our fit out. It's our staff. We enable online brands to flexibly rent counters in the store to make sales. It's kind of a useful way for online brands to test out physical retail. And they have the added benefit that there is a cross-pollination of brands because we have between 10 and 15 sustainable direct-to-consumer brands in the store. So, as opposed to just being in a craft fair or selling individually in their own store, they benefit from the footfall from multiple brands in the store. So this is a picture of what the interior of our store looks like. So as you can see from a branding perspective, we're focused on kind of eco-friendly and sustainable brands. And then in the picture you can see the counters that we provide. So each counter is a different direct-to-consumer brand or e-commerce brand. And they have a counter and on the top where they can display their products and make sales. And each counter also has an iPad, which with a flexible interactive display. And on the iPad we load some information about the brand or product. We can have videos about the brand or products that are being sold. And customers in store can make purchases through the iPad and take products home with them from the store on that day. Or they can enter their address and have the product shipped to them, same as if they were doing an online order. So, I guess our shared purpose is that bringing an online e-commerce concept into the physical world is challenging. And the idea is that I'm going to talk about kind of what we've done right and wrong in the past year of running the store. So also just to frame it a little bit, so selling online is great, but there's a study from Time Trade which says that 85% of shoppers still prefer to buy offline. And the reality is that if you're purely selling online, you're not addressing kind of 100% of the potential market that you could be addressing. So to just frame it, so the pros of online are that it's very easy to set up with software like Etsy, Shopify, or Squarespace. It's kind of quick to iterate on ideas and learnings in the sense of changing the product mix that you have on the website, changing the branding, the website design, changing the ads that you're using on Instagram or Facebook. And you can do a lot with a relatively small team because you're not moving physical things in the real world. The potential cons are that customer acquisition costs have the potential to be unsustainable. If you are, for example, spending more on ads than you are generating in revenue through the lifetime value of your customers. The barriers to entry are very low. So if you have a product which is branded for a specific niche and that's working very well for you, because of the low barriers to entry, it's relatively likely that a new entrant could come into the market and directly compete with you, which can make it difficult to stand out on social media platforms and in branding. And the final thing is, which I said, is that A large number of shoppers still prefer to shop offline. So if you are purely online, you are not addressing 100% of the market. That being said, why could it make sense to go offline? And the primary goal, I think, of most offline retailers is to operate a standalone physical retail store that is profitable by itself, which means that the sales that you generate in that store are more than the rent that you're paying in the store and the cost of the staff to physically, to be in that store, plus any auxiliary costs that are associated. However, there are also other auxiliary positive effects of running a physical retail store. And this is what we've learned by doing it. So the first one is that having a physical store generates kind of automatic authority or clout around a topic. So what we found is that we can host events in our store where we can, for example, invite founders of brands in that we have in the store to talk about their product or talk about what they are doing. We've generated PR through it from magazines or editors of magazines just walking into the store and finding it interesting and asking what we're about and writing articles about Greenhaus. And in general, when you're talking with partners or potential customers, having a physical location where you can meet seems to make things just more real than purely having an online presence or a website. The second or another benefit is that you can learn from customers directly in person, and you can do that kind of on a continuous, ongoing basis. So one example that we had is we have a brand called Strudels, which is sustainable straws made out of pasta, which are have no taste, and they last longer than paper straws, and are obviously better than plastic straws. But the founder of that brand was in our store talking with his customers that were buying his products, and I saw him learn that pasta straws are great for the majority of customers. However, there's a small subset of customers that are gluten intolerant, which were not able to use his straws. So he decided to create a new product, which is gluten-free pasta straws. Another benefit is that in-store sales at volume can actually be more profitable than online sales. So assuming that most brands are subsidizing shipping costs online, which is a variable cost. So as you sell more, you subsidize more shipping costs. Whereas in a physical store, the primary costs are rent and store staff, which stay constant regardless of how much you're selling in the store. So at volume, or once you kind of hit that inflection point, the sales that you're generating in a physical store are actually more profitable generally than online sales. Another benefit is that in a physical location, you can let prospective customers touch and try products before they actually buy them, regardless of whether they buy them in the store or go home and purchase them online. And there's a metric, which is that customers that have touched and tried a product are more likely to be repeat purchasers also down the line. Another benefit is that online sales tend to grow faster in cities where there's a physical store location. So this is based on information from two direct-to-consumer brands, Casper, which is a mattress company in a way. And they found that their online sales actually grow twice as fast in cities where they have a physical location than in cities where they do not. And a final, additional benefit to a store is just the ability to host events. So what we found is that having events in the evening where we have a drink reception or we invite founders of brands to come in and talk about their products, generate awareness about Greenhaus and about the brands, but they also lead to sales. And the days where we had events were the kind of highest sales days that we had, where we have an event in the evening and just leave the tills open essentially and generate sales that way. So this just summarizes essentially what I've just said, which is that the reason that Apple stores look the way they do is to not just generate sales, but to do everything that you cannot do online, such as build relationships, offer service, solve problems, and upsell customers. And assuming that you're an online e-commerce retailer that is looking to go into physical retail, something that might make sense is to define the goals and timelines that you have for your physical store. And things to think about are things like, is your product very high value, or is it more of a convenience purchase? And to also define the goals of what you need for your store. So do you need your store to be standalone profitable, or are you okay to have it just as a showroom to kind of support and complement your online sales? And do you want to start out with just a single store, or do you want to already have a strategy that you will have multiple stores in different locations? And now to talk a little bit more detailed about things to think about when going into the physical retail offline world. And I've divided this into kind of starting out the team that you're working with, the technical things to look into, and then some final tips about like maximizing your chance of success. So the first thing to remember is that operating a physical store is a lot less forgiving than an online store. The time to iterate is slower, and the initial capital outlay in terms of fit out is a lot higher than just throwing an Etsy or Shopify website online. And it is important to think about the size of the store that you're looking to put online. So a typical direct-to-consumer online retail store might be between 500 and 1,000 square feet. And also just getting a sense of how big that is by going into comparable retail locations. Thinking about how long you want to operate the store, i.e. do you want to do it on a permanent basis, or start out just with a temporary pop-up? And to think about the mix of adjacent tenants that you have around your store and the demographics that you're looking for, which can inform the location of where you put your store. And then in terms of team, so also this is divided into two parts. One is kind of the management team, and the other is the in-store staff. And especially if you're coming from the background of being an e-commerce retailer, from our view, it's very beneficial to have a team that at least understands or has background in physical retail, real estate and retail, and ideally a software engineer. And in terms of your in-store team, think about who are you going to hire, how are you going to hire them, training them on the sales of your products, motivating them, managing rotas and things like that, which can be almost a full-time job in itself. Then in terms of technical, so what we found is that the best way to go about doing this is to have kind of one integrated backend solution, which has your product data, like images, descriptions, shipping information, SKU numbers, things like that, that can support multiple fronts. And one front will be your online e-commerce store, and the other front will essentially be your physical store. So to your backend system, the physical store and the online store will just be kind of two separate faces of the backend. And this is important because it ensures kind of consistency of data. And if you do not have the backend system, you can lose time, money, and just manpower and confusion in maintaining consistency of data amongst your online store and your offline store. Then also think about your payment provider. And this also goes together with the backend solution. And there are off-the-shelf things like SumUp and iZettle. However, the thing with these is that automatically means you have another backend or data that you need to manage, which doesn't automatically stay consistent with your online e-commerce. Think about how to ensure accurate stock keeping. So in a physical store, in a perfect world, the inventory that you have at the start of the day minus the sales that you've made during the day is the remaining inventory in the store. However, in the real world, that is not always the case. There's things like theft or stock that you cannot sell for whatever reason, or you have returns. And thinking about the interactive display hardware in the store, such as iPads, and kind of what to show on them about your products. And then just some tips about maximizing your chance of success. So as I mentioned, hosting events is a great way to generate quick sales, and also to spread the word of mouth about the physical store that you're operating. Think about regulation. In general, there's a lot more regulation offline than there is online. So think about the times that you can operate, health and safety laws, what you can sell, such as alcohol licensing, and in-store coupons. So what I said previously is that offline physical stores tend to increase online sales in the cities where you have a store. The difficult thing is tracking how many of your offline visitors are converting into online sales. Quick and simple kind of hack for that could be to have coupon codes in the store that are like 5% off that people can take home and put into your e-commerce, and then you know that person has been in your physical store and bought something online when they're home because they've used your coupon code, most likely. And then also think about security. So especially if you're operating in a city, keeping your employees safe and the inventory that you have in the store is important. And then once you've thought about all of these things, how do you actually go and open up a physical store? So one tip is that in the UK, retail landlords pay business rates tax, which is 40% or about 40% of the annual market rent of a physical store, if a property has been empty for 3 months or more. And so as a result, what we found is that there are landlords that have an empty property that could be willing for you to test out your retail idea or concept in their store by just paying the business rates tax. And then what I would suggest is just to speak to those brokers like Cushman, CBRE, and JLL. Their agent contact details are just publicly available on their website. They have offices in most cities. And what we did is we just called them or emailed them with a presentation about our brand and asked them to find us locations. So now a little bit more about Greenhaus. So we've focused on kind of small to medium-sized brands that are looking to test out physical locations without the fit-out and staff requirements of their own store. And this slide is showing a little bit the environment of similar companies to us that are providing physical space to direct-to-consumer online retailers. What I would say is that the US is probably just has more companies doing this than the UK. So in the UK, the only two companies are Appear Here and Greenhaus. So yeah, this is the front of our store. And another quick, or just something that we found out is we painted our store bright pink, which did seem to generate a lot of footfall because people were just interested what the pink store is on the street. This is another picture of the interior of the store. One learning that we found is that mixing food and beverage and retail is operationally very difficult. So we actually have kind of a fully, like a functioning coffee shop in the store, like a professional coffee shop. But running that is a very intricate process and probably best left to pure play coffee players or operators. This is another picture of the interior of the store where we have kind of a hangout area where customers that have come and bought a coffee or looked at products can sit. This is a picture of the kind of core offering that we have, which is counters where direct-to-consumer brands can display their products and make sales. And this is the picture that I showed previously. So, and one main benefit is that brands benefit from the cross-pollination of being amongst other like-minded brands. So just in this picture, for example, on the right is Strudels, which is the pasta straws that I mentioned. In the middle is a brand called NEC, which are based in Zurich. And this is their only London physical retail location. And the company is based in Zurich. And in order to have this physical location, what they did was we had 1 or 2 video calls with them about their company and about their products. And then they shipped us over some inventory. And within a week, they had, they were making sales in a physical store in London with kind of, almost guaranteed footfall because they are, first of all, in Greenhaus and then amongst other like-minded sustainable brands. Then to the left of that is a baby clothes company called Little Earth Baby. And then just behind that is a company called Cacao Pow, which is a deodorant company. So just to go back up to the point about size. So what we realized is that our store is 1,500 square feet. And we realized that it's probably 500 square feet too big. So in the back of the store, we put in this co-working area where customers can also just sit and work, which is kind of we thought, creative way of using the space. Yeah, so just to also mention what kind of I haven't spoken about is things like contractors to build out the store, actually designing the store, what it looks like, choosing the materials, and furniture and fittings. So yeah, that's it. These are my contact details. Always happy to make new connections. And if you are a brand that's looking to have plug-and-play retail space in London, you can go to greenhaus.reserver.io/London and sign up easily. Thank you.
Thank you very much.